Is this the new light sport aircraft? Boeing on your tail in a dogfight, and the latest commercial and private show news. You're watching FullFlapTV. I'm Richard Medson. Vicky's off for a week, so I'm standing in for this week, I'm afraid. You might have seen me around before. I'm the producer of FullFlap.tv, but I'm also a pilot, and I love all this stuff. So, you've got me talking about it this week, and hopefully you can bear with me. Thanks, by the way, for all your thoughts on the website. I check those, obviously, every week to see what you want in the show. And over Christmas, you were telling me that you wanted more commercial news, you wanted more private flying news as well. Suddenly we come back to a new year and you tell us you want more of our challenges, like the race between the aircraft and public transport and lots of other things. So bear with us. I'll get there as fast as possible. I'm cracking the whip and hopefully the team will come up with some great stuff very soon. But let's get on with talking about some of the things that people have been talking about in flying over the past week. I think it's one of the most boring looking LSAs out there, but people can't stop talking about the Cessna Skycatcher. When most prototype aircraft get a change to their tailplane, no one really cares, do they? But it's big news for some reason this week. Perhaps it's because they had to make the change after one of their pilots ended up parking the test aircraft in a tree. Luckily, he was fine. The partly Chinese-built aircraft is going to set you back $112,000 and will do everything every other LSA does, but it's also selling like crazy despite its looks. The firms say they've got 1,000 orders already. Maybe I'm going to be proved wrong. Maybe the whole team will be proved wrong. And it's going to be the best thing out there. We will find out when it's released. However, I wonder if instead we should be looking at this. Now, the guy who designed my favourite LSA, which is the Sport Cruiser, has come up with another one prepared to drool. This could be the MG or the Corvette of the future in the skies. Look at it, right? You might notice, actually, straight away, that it's got a little bit of roof on it. Now, in the Sport Cruiser, you haven't got that. Now, that's great if you get a little bit of sunburn on your bald spot like me. But frankly, I still think the Sport Cruiser just has a slightly nicer looking canopy. And I love the fact that you can look all around and see everywhere. Anyway, Roko Aero, which aren't Czech Aircraft Works, so they've made improvements as well. The seats are comfier and the landing gear is stronger as well. I'm waiting for a few more statistics from the firm, but you should apparently be able to get 129 knots out of this aircraft. That is pretty quick for something this size, but I couldn't tell you what engine that needs or what the fuel consumption is. I'm sure we're going to find out more at Aero Expo Prague this year, so we'll have a chat with them there. Right, quirky story for you I noticed this week. No sooner than they're finally getting UAVs flying successfully, they're now trying to shoot them down. Boeing have just tested their new Avenger system. There are no missiles involved here. Instead, they simply use a laser to burn you out of the sky. So how does that relate to you or to pilots? Well, last year, we pointed out that getting a flying job in the military was now more about having a good joystick wrist than having the right stuff, because you're going to be flying a UAV. You're probably not even going to get airborne. So just think, you could be effectively playing a combat flight sim mission and really be shot at, but without the messy after effects, of course. Diamond produced some great looking aircraft, but they've not had an easy time recently, have they, with their engines after the company that made them went bust. They've been working on their own, and it looks like they're nearly ready to go into the DA40s and DA42s. But it's not cheap developing your own power plant, with the cost estimated to be just under 50 million euros. And at the end of the day, who's going to pay for that? Ultimately, it's going to be us. Still, they are great aircraft. Liberty, they're another company with some great aircraft. This one in particular, the XL2, and now they have dealers across the US. The firm say they strategically placed 10 around the country to make it easier for you to go and see it. If you're new to the XL2, it is one of the few new breed of aircraft that can actually be used to fly in cloud on instruments. The big advantage is that unlike the old gas guzzlers, this drinks about half the fuel, so it's great for flying training. Just finally, are you as shocked as me at the people threatening to sue US Airways and even Chelsea Sullenberger after he saved their lives in the Hudson? As pilots, we know there's a real world out there, right? And nothing interesting in life is 100% safe. But if they can't take responsibility for their choices in life, surely they should be locked up as mentally incapable if they can't decide that. They should be celebrating, not suing. Anyway, moving on. AOPA's President Craig Fuller thinks now is the time for new initiatives. Political speak for get your arse in gear. One of the most powerful people in non-passenger jet aviation admits things aren't great right now, but they will bounce back and we need to be ready for it. Another interesting point he made is that 62% of the US public see GA as an important part of the country's transport system. That is something I know a lot of you guys in other countries would love to have, that sort of support. Guys at Fly Magazine, by the way, made a good point this week. Fuel prices have tumbled from the summer. They were talking about the latest UK prices on the Attis forum, dropping down as low as 1.13 British pounds per litre of avgas. That's about $6 per US gallon at Denham, so it's still pretty cheap in the US. Talking of Fly, I had a great chat with them actually in a hotel lobby this week about their flight training exhibition this year. And if you want to get into commercial flying as an airline job or even biz jets, then they have two events coming up this year if you're in Western Europe, one in Dublin, the other in London. British Airways is going to be there, DHL, NetJets, loads of people, lots of flight training schools as well, and we'll have more details on that in coming shows. By the way, we're working with Flyer on some other ideas too, and we'll work with anyone that shares our aim to try and get flying right back up there where it belongs, at the top of people's minds, in a good way, of course. So drop us an email if you want to work with us. It's great. That is it for this week. Vicky's going to be back next week, and we have a rather interesting feature for you then. How to pass your aviation exams, or perhaps even any exams you're about to do, in record time. We'll see if it works. You're watching FullFlap.tv.